My name is Shiri. Good morning. How are you feeling this morning? Good?
Pretty good, pretty good.
Excited? Great. So my name is Shiri. I'm the program manager here at Launchpad Space. And first I wanted to welcome you to our space. Who's here for the first time? Raise your hand. Wow, okay, great. That's very exciting. Well, first I wanted to thank you for joining us. I know that taking 2 days out of your time and in the startup world is like a lifetime, so thank you for coming and joining. This is our second summit, and really it is inspiring to me to see so many amazing women in the audience as it was the first time, so it's really great to see so many great faces. So what the summit is about and what you're doing here today. This summit is about bringing women together, but not just women, but innovators, creators, leaders, entrepreneurs, influencers, engineers, and many more brilliant minds, really, that fuels and drives this industry to do incredible things. Today, we have an amazing lineup for you. You're going to learn about telling powerful stories and how to scale globally, and how to build products that customers love, and you're also going to get to ask all the questions that you want about fundraising from the top VCs. We also have a few surprises for you. One of them is actually, this is the first time we're launching our Mentorship Cafe. It's going to be a second track at the same time at 1:30 to 3:30. If you didn't have a chance to register, please go ahead and do that. It's right over here on the table. And also, you can get your professional headshot today. So during the breaks and lunchtime, Zeke, our photographer, is going to take headshots. So yeah, that's exciting. I'm gonna take mine for sure as well. If you want to, it's an option. You don't have to. And that's going to be right over there on the other side, which is called the lab. So before we start, I wanted to give you a little bit of context about what it is that we do here at Launchpad Space and what it is, and kind of give you a rundown of the names of the spaces and where you're going to be today. So Launchpad Space is Google Space to interact with developers and entrepreneurs, and we do that by offering educational events. So anything from code labs, hackathons, meetups, mentoring session, everything is, you can find it here. So you can always join us for the events. So you're welcome, now that you're a part of our community. This is also the international hub for the Launchpad program, which is Google's acceleration program. Right now we're running two different programs. One is Launchpad Accelerator, which is for startups from emerging ecosystems in growth stage. And the other program is the Launchpad Studio, which is actually, we just launched it, and it's running at the same time on the other side, so you might see them. And that's for startups that are in the applied machine learning world. So that's what we're doing here today. The names of the spaces, this is the talk area. This is where you're going to find most of our sessions. The back is the cafe, where you're going to find lunch soon and a snack in the afternoon as well. And you can always feel free to grab coffee and drinks. On the other side, we have the lab, where you're going to have mentoring sessions, and also the headshots are going to be taken there. The sprint, which is a little bit further, this is where the Launchpad Studio is running right now, so we're not going to get to be there as much today. Well, yeah, I just want to sum up and to say that to me it's really a great honor to take part of this Female Founder Summit, and this is the second one. We're also running evening meetups as well that you can get to join, and I just want to really encourage you to maximize this opportunity to get to meet as many other women and men in this audience, and because they're really amazing, and I can't wait to hear all about you and what you're doing and all about your startups. And yeah, if you have any ideas, suggestions of how to make this community bigger and stronger, please feel free to reach out to me. Again, my name is Shiri. So, without further ado, I'd like to introduce our first speaker. Her name is Nguyen. And a little bit about Han, she's going to tell us about her too. She's currently a product partner at Omidyar Network with the Emerging Tech Ventures team, where she coaches CEO and advises early stage startups on product and design. She sits on the advisory board of several startups and frequently gives talks around the globe on how to build products that customers love, like she's going to do here today. Hai is also a member of the executive leadership team of Women in Product and co-founder of the Product Leaders Summit. And she's going to talk about building products that customers love. So I'm going to hand it over to her.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Yay, good. Yeah, let's get some energy. Awesome. Okay, well, I want to start by asking just a couple of questions. So first of all, can any of you name a product that is used and loved by millions of customers? So go ahead and shout out. Slack.
Facebook.
Amazon, Facebook, Instagram, Shazam. Shazam, great, awesome. Google, okay, awesome. Okay, sounds good, thanks. Okay, well, great. Next question. So how many of you aspire to build a product that's used and loved by millions of people? Okay, I want to see more hands. How many of you aspire to build? Okay, awesome.
First of all, it's not a product, it's a software that you cannot touch.
Oh, so there's software products and there's physical products and hardware products, so products can be anything. So how many of you believe that you have the tools needed to build a product used and loved by millions? Okay, any ideas out there? I'd love to just get a couple of thoughts around sort of what's needed to sort of build a product that's used and loved by millions.
Talking to the target customer.
Talking to the target customer, absolutely, and we will definitely cover that today. Anything else? Great team, absolutely. Nothing gets built without a team. So market research, talking to the customers, absolutely, very similar. Yeah.
Resources, money.
Money. Oh yes. Okay. And later today, I do have a great session on fundraising. We did a session last week on navigating early stage fundraising. That's so important, especially if you're bootstrapping, but then you want to eventually build and scale a team. Other ideas?
A good idea.
A good idea. Oh yes. That is a critical component. We're going to cover that here. And how do you come up with that good idea? So we'll definitely cover that.
Well, if you're talking only about software, maybe to be a developer.
Oh, to be a developer? Well, even if you're not a developer, your founder and I, as a product leader, don't have computer science background or technical skills, but you want to bring on a team in order to help you. So, great. Awesome. Okay, one more. A what? Great design. Great design is so important, especially if you're wanting to get to millions of people. Although, I would say that in the beginning, we all will be building minimum viable products, and so the design can certainly evolve as well. It doesn't have to be amazing from the get-go, but it certainly has to be valuable. It has to be something that solves a customer need or pain point. Okay, so that's what I'm going to be talking about today is how do you build those products that customers love? But before we get into the meat of the conversation, just a little bit more about myself. So I have a business background. Question? You can't hear?
I can't hear you.
Oh, we can't hear. Can we crank up the mic?
I don't hear your mic. I
It's
don't
not
think your
on.
mic.
Okay. Side on. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yay, okay, awesome. I've never had anybody say to me that they couldn't hear me before. So, okay, awesome. Okay, so just a little bit about myself. So I did not have a computer science background, and yet I still got into product. I studied business, and then I lived my whole sort of early life in the East Coast, but then I got hit by the tech bug, moved out, like so many of you have, to the Bay Area to get started in my tech career. I joined eBay in 2000. Now, this was back in the days when it was an early stage startup. When I had joined, I was one of 6 PMs in the eBay team, and by the time I left 5 years later, we had over 200 people on the PM team. When I joined, we were still, the flywheel was in motion. We had done 40 million in revenue, but by the time I left 5 years later, we had done over 5 billion in revenue. So I'll share a couple stories from my eBay experience, but one of the things that I really learned after being at eBay for 5 years was that I actually loved the early stage. I loved everything about the early stage. I love the early stage product building, team building, culture building, company building. And so I really wanted to go back to the early stage. I had joined then a Series A batch startup called Greylock, and was there for 4 years. And then basically I ended up joining, after eBay, 4 more early stage startups. Seed and Series A is my sweet spot. About a year and a half ago, I sort of moved over to the venture side. So I'm at Omidyar Network now, and Omidyar Network, for those of you who might not know, is an investment firm that was founded by Pierre Omidyar, and Pierre was the founder of eBay. Many people, especially if you're in your 20s, may not know that, but Pierre founded eBay, created his billions, but he really believed in making the world a better place and building a future for everyone. And so he took his wealth and does a lot of philanthropic work. So he started a foundation, but then he also believed in the power of markets to be a great, powerful force for good. And so we also incorporated an LLC alongside with the foundation work, called it Omidyar Network, and we do venture capital, early stage investing, seed and Series A. So when you sort of get ready to start fundraising, you have some traction, proof points, and early stages of product market fit, we'd love for you to talk to us. But we also do grants, especially in emerging markets as well. So that's a little bit about me. And I've learned a ton of things. So as I mentioned, I've been doing product for about 17 years now, and I've learned a ton of things throughout my product career. Here's a sampling of all of the things I've learned. I could probably do a talk on each one of these bullet points that would go a full hour, but I'm going to just share like 3 snippets of learnings from each of my companies. So the first one at eBay. So you are in front of my claim to fame, I guess, is I was the PM over the Buy It Now feature. So before Buy It Now launched the site, eBay was purely an auction marketplace. So I got in there in 2000, and one of my first projects was figuring out how to introduce a fixed price format on eBay. So the executive team for a long time knew that Amazon was right around the corner and it was going to sort of eat our lunch unless we figured out how to introduce fixed price. But the challenge was that every time we talked to our sellers prior, when we asked them about introducing a fixed price format, they said, no way in hell. We're here because we love auctions. And so they didn't do anything for 2 years. And then I got assigned the project, and one of the things that we did was we went out and we talked to customers. We talked to a lot of customers, especially our sellers, just to understand what was their aversion to Buy It Now. And one of the lessons that's up here is that I really learned that you can't ask your customers what they want, but you have to understand the why and the motivation. So when we ask them, well, what is it that you love about auctions? They would say, well, we think it's fun. Okay, well, why is it fun? Well, we really love the fact that it's a game, right? And I love my items being bid up. Okay, well, why is that important? Well, because then I get the highest prices for my listings. Well, why is that important? Oh, I guess because I don't really know how to price my item and I don't want to get the lowest price, right? And so when you hear that, you start developing a bunch of ideas around, okay, if we can actually solve these issues, maybe we could come up with a solution that's palatable for sellers. And so the first version of Buy It Now was something that we called Disappearing Buy It Now. And it was a game, and I won't go into the mechanics of how it worked, but when we launched it, sellers surprisingly loved it. So we, within 2 weeks of launch, 60% of all listings had the Buy It Now feature on it, and 98% seller satisfaction. And that was quite the accomplishment because for so many years they had this really visceral averse reaction to sort of even the thought of introducing a fixed price format on eBay. So that was lesson 1. Lesson 2 comes from my days at Stella & Dot. So how many of you have heard of Stella & Dot? Hopefully a lot of us. So jewelry, direct sales, sold by stylists at in-home trunk shows. I worked with probably the best entrepreneur that I will ever have worked with. Her name was Jessica Herring. She was a serial founder, serial entrepreneur. And she was a smart lady and very highly opinionated. And so one of the things that I thought was odd when I joined was that I would walk the hallways and everybody would say, well, we have to launch this feature because Jessica says, or we got to change this wording around because Jessica says. And that was troubling to me because as a product leader, right, you don't want to butt heads with your founder CEO, but yet at the same time you want autonomy to make the right decisions. And so it took me some time, but one of the things I'm really proud of in leading the product and design team there was that we really built a testing and experimentation culture. Jim Barksdale from Netscape, as the former CEO there, has this famous quote, which is, if all we have is opinions, let's go with mine. but if we have the data, let's have the data rule the day. And so that's what we did, which was every time Jessica would say to me, like, I think that we should launch X, I would say to her, well, you know what, Jessica, I think you're right, because you do know the customers better than any of us, you know the business, you know the data, but we've talked to our customers and they sort of said this, so we want to try out Y, how about we test both? And it was going to be really hard for Jessica to say, no, we shouldn't, right? And so we developed a testing culture, and turns out that Jessica ended up being right a lot of the time, but the few times that she wasn't right, she was very humbled by some of the insight and the learnings. So that was sort of lesson 2. So lesson 3 comes from my days at Keaton Rowe. So Keaton Rowe was a seed stage startup when I joined. It was in fashion, it matched clients up with a personal stylist. And the thing is that we couldn't really rely with so much on data in those early days because we didn't really have a whole lot of customers. So you can't really do A/B testing if you don't have a significant pool to tell you whether A was better or B was better. And even though, of course, we were measuring signups, engagement, and conversions, there was just so little data for us to really be able to sort of rely on. And so what we did was we introduced Net Promoter Score. And as founders in the room, if you were not measuring and capturing NPS, I highly encourage you to do it. So the NPS question, for those of you who may not know, is on a scale from 0 to 10, and you ask your customers, on a scale of 0 to 10, how likely would you be to recommend this product or this service to a friend or a colleague? And the way that the NPS score is calculated is that 9s and 10s are your promoters, and they add to your score. But if they give you anything from a 0 to a 6, that's a detractor, and that subtracts from your score. So one of the things that folks might not know is that you can actually get a negative 100 NPS. So it's really, really hard to get a good NPS. And so as we were starting to measure NPS, we were a bit surprised because our NPS was in the low teens. But what we did was we used it as a KPI metric, and we measured it as part of the dashboard, and every month we would collect the NPS score, and we would hope to be improving upon the NPS each month. One of the other things that we did that is so important when you're collecting NPS is that we would ask the why. So why did you give it the score that you did? And then if they were promoters or gave us 9s or 10s, we would use some of the language that our customers said, and we would add it to the website or into our marketing emails or ads. And that's sort of a great hack for all of you. If they gave us a 0 to 6, it would help to inform our product roadmap. And so that's sort of the third sort of lesson that I wanted to share with you. NPS to measure product market fit. Okay, so getting to the meat of the talk today, so I had all these learnings from leading product and design at early stage startups. When I moved over to Omidyar Network and was asked to work with our portfolio on product, I really had to sort of think through what was going to be the framework where I could be as helpful as I could be to our portfolio organizations, right? So I don't know their customers as well as they do. I don't know the business as well as they do, or the market, or the data. And so I developed this 3-step framework, and when you sort of see the 3 steps, they're intuitive. But one of the things that I learned is that not a lot of founders or even product leaders do this. It's not part of their DNA. It's not part of the habit that they, that's part of the process within the companies. And so I share this framework with our portfolio organizations. I also go out and I go and do some of this work with them directly. And I really do believe that if you sort of follow these 3 steps, it doesn't guarantee success, but it's certainly going to increase your chances of success. Okay, so step 1, which I heard from the audience, is customer insights, right? So a lot of us believe that we know our customers, right? So we might have had this, we might have been the customer before, and we might have developed some insights based on our own personal pain points around what the problem is. But the reality is that that's only one data point. And so we don't really know our customers until we go out and we talk to them. And we have to talk to lots and lots and lots of them before we really truly understand who our customers are and understand their world, understand their needs or pain points. And what we want to try to do is sort of develop those aha insights that really is going to help us and figuring out what the right solution is for them. And I want to share a couple of my favorite stories, and I know these guys. If you do know them, don't shout it out quite yet. But one of the teams that I think did this really, really well is Sam and Liam. So Sam and Liam were from the UK. They wanted to create an education tech startup, and they said, okay, well, if we're going to create a startup, we should move out to the Bay Area. And Sam was actually a former teacher. So Sam had this problem of creating lesson plans for his students, and so they were going to start an ed tech company around lesson plans for teachers. So they moved up to the Bay Area, but one of the things that they did that was really, really smart was that before they wrote a single line of code around the lesson plans, they went out and they talked to teachers. Now, they didn't just talk to 3 or 5 or 10 teachers. They called up 1,000 teachers, and I'm not joking. They called up 1,000 teachers. Now, of course, they didn't hear from everybody, but they did hear from 200 of those teachers, and they talked to all 200 teachers. And what they learned surprised them, and it really surprised Sam, having been a former teacher himself. What they heard consistently was that while lesson plans were okay, it wasn't the biggest problem or struggle from these, faced by these teachers. The problem or struggle that most of the teachers were facing was the classroom culture. Because you see, every class always has that 1 or 2 or 3 class clown that disrupts the class, and it takes each teacher about 20 minutes before they can settle the classroom down before the lesson can start. And so Sam and Liam were like, that's interesting. That was sort of different than what we thought. And so they decided that they were going to focus on that problem instead. And so over the course of 6 weeks, the summer of 2011, they decided that they were going to build a positive feedback tool. So what this feedback tool does is that with the rise of mobile that was happening in 2011, teachers could walk around the classroom and give recognition to those students who were demonstrating positive behavior. So Sarah has attentive listening skills, or Mike had great class participation today, or Liam is helping other students, and so should be recognized for that. And what was really interesting was that as the teachers were sort of recognizing students, and it showed up on the leaderboard, the class clowns wanted to emulate that, right? So they wanted to sort of be recognized too, and so they really sort of saw within the classrooms for the teachers who were using it, so the culture of the classroom changed. So how did Sam and Liam get their early customers? Well, simply, they went back to those 200 teachers who they talked to, and they said, hey, you had told me that this was the problem. We kind of built this, this prototype with this beta solution for you. Will you try it out and tell us what you think? And so those teachers tried it out, and they absolutely loved it. They saw the culture of the classrooms changed, and they went on to tell other teachers. And then those teachers tried it out and loved it, and they went on to tell other teachers. So fast forward into today, so the company is Class Dojo. Class Dojo, as I mentioned, started in 2011, but today has over 90% adoption in schools and 35 million users using the product. And they did this with 0 marketing dollars, 0. Let that sink in for a moment. Okay, another story I want to share with you, and everybody knows about this company, right, Airbnb. So how many of you know the early story of Airbnb? Okay, quite a few of you. And then those who might not? Okay, well, most of you know. Well, I'm going to sort of share a little bit of the Airbnb story just to sort of set some context and to sort of reinforce this idea of like customer insights. So these were 3 friends. They wanted to create a startup, but unlike Sam and Liam, they didn't know what they wanted to work on yet. They just wanted to do a startup because it was going to be cool. So they quit their jobs, they moved to the Bay Area, but they still needed to come up with an idea. But what they did know was that they had rent that was going to be due in 2 weeks, and they had no money, they had no job, they had no ability to pay for it, and so they were like, well, we do have space. Oh, it's not a lot of space, but it's a small space in our San Francisco apartment. Why don't we just rent it out to overnight guests? And we don't have beds, but we're going to sort of bring out air beds, and then we're going to make it a delightful experience, and we're going to cook them breakfast in the morning. So hence, the idea was born, and the company was called Air Bed and Breakfast. And that was their idea. Now, for those of you who do know the early story of Airbnb, it was not an overnight success. In fact, this is what their traffic looked like for the first couple of years. So you could sort of see no traffic, no traffic, no traffic, no traffic, right? And so there's hope for all of us. Let's put it that way. So what was this blip in the middle? So this blip in the middle was the Democratic National Convention, where Barack Obama sort of came into town, and all of the hotel rooms were sold out. So they had this idea, okay, all the hotel rooms are sold out. This is what we do. So they flew out to Denver. They knocked on some doors. They convinced some homeowners to open up space in their homes to rent out on Airbnb. And then they contacted all of the local journalists in the area, and then got a bunch of journalists to write up about Airbnb. So then the Democratic National Convention comes along. They got a ton of traffic, and they were like, great, we made it, we're golden, right? Well, as you can see from the graph, not so much. Because the reality is, and so many of us who are starting startups will face this, right? You get that big PR blitz or that, that marketing campaign launches, and it's gonna look amazing, and you're gonna think that you made it, but the reality is that it sort of falls off the cliff, right? Because they hadn't yet built a product that customers loved, and so they really struggled. And so what changed for them? So what changed for them, as many of you know, they joined Y Combinator, and Paul Graham, who was one of the founders of Y Combinator, had started asking them about the products and their customers, and they said, well, you know what, we actually don't really have that many customers. In fact, the few customers that we have are in New York City. So Paul was like, well, what are you doing here? You should be on a plane tomorrow to New York City talking to your customers. And they're like, okay. That's fine, but it feels like we have so much work. We're, codying up the site. And Paul was like, look, what you need to understand is you just have to focus on 100 people. And if you can get those 100 people to love you, then they're going to tell everybody else. That was exactly what Sam and Liam focused on in Class Dojo, and this was the advice that Paul was sharing with the founders of Airbnb. So that's exactly what happened. They flew out to New York, and the way that they were able to, thankfully, they knew everybody's, all their few customers' addresses. And what they did to be able to talk to them was they knocked on the host homes. They brought a professional photographer with them, and they said, hey, we're here to photo your apartment, which some of the hosts thought were creepy, but still let them in. And in the process of really spending time with their hosts, even on occasion living with their host or staying overnight with their host, they developed a lot of other aha moments. So one of the insights that they learned was that a lot of the hosts were kind of fearful of having the creepy Craigslist guy, the Craigslist killer come in and do some really bad things. And so they realized that trust was going to be really important, right? So reputation, identity, profiles, ratings, and so they built that. Another story that I thought was fantastic was they were having dinner with one of their hosts and having this amazing conversation, and then the guy kind of stops mid-sentence and looks at them, and they're like, okay, this is what's going on, this is kind of weird. And the host was like, okay, this is nice and all, but can you pay me now? And they hadn't even thought about it, right? So the model that they had in their head was you stay at the place and then you pay afterwards. But then they realized that payments was a friction on the marketplace, and so they incorporated payments. And so what went from 10 bookings a week ended up moving to 20 bookings a week, and what ended up going from 20 bookings a week went to 50, went to 100. And so therefore, sort of, here's the graph that we all know today. Okay, so as Steve Blank, one of the early founders of the Lean Startup Movement, says, in a startup, no facts exist within the building, right? So if you're not going out, you're not talking to your customers, all you have is assumptions, you don't have any facts. And so you really need to go out and get out of the building. Okay, so that's step one. I think most of us know this intuitively. How many of you are sort of practicing this today, which is you're going out and you're talking to customers every day? Awesome. I think the Bay Area community is doing some things really right there. So it's great to hear so many of you doing that. Okay, so step two, the harder part is what is the right solution that's going to meet the needs of my customers? So once I understand my customers and I have those aha insights, what is the right solution? Because the reality is that there could be 50 good solutions to the problem that they've expressed to you, right? And so how do you come up with the right answer? Okay, so before I share with you sort of my favorite product discovery technique, you want to sort of emphasize why it's so important to come up with the right solution and learn as fast as possible. So in a startup, right, so time is your enemy. So we all have limited resources, limited time, and limited money. And so what you don't want is to build all of the ideas that come into your head and then realize that in 12 months you tried out all of your ideas, none of them worked, and then you are out of cash, right? So that's not what you want to get yourself into. And so to highlight this even more, so Tom Chi, one of the early Google X folks, has talked about this, right? Which is, let's do the math, which is even for the most brilliant product visionaries of us, like so even Steve Jobs, not all of his ideas were great. In fact, you can sort of expect that only 1 in 20 ideas are going to work. So if you try out a lot of ideas, you're going to increase your chances of success, but you have to try out a hell of a lot, and there's still a chance of failure. So, so the question is, how do you try out these ideas without having to go out and build them all? Because if you build them all and you run out of cash and you haven't been able to fundraise because you haven't hit those milestones, then you're going to be shit out of luck. So what we do is, and this is what I run our Omidyar Network portfolio organizations through, is the Google Ventures Design Sprint. So I started doing design sprints back when I was a product leader at my early stage startups. At the time, Jake Knapp and the team were starting to write in blogs about the process, and I tried it with great success. And then when I joined Omidyar Network, one of the things that I, again, realized was that I'm not going to be able to tell them what they should be building, even despite my sort of long track record in product, because I don't know the customers and I don't know the markets and the business and the metrics. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this process with them. I'm going to allow them to discover what the right solution is going to be. And the reason why this works is because it gives teams a shortcut to learning where they can learn as fast as possible without having to build everything. And so the process that we go through, and I think a lot of you are familiar with the stages of a sprint, but just to quickly go through it, it's a five-day process. I've gotten it down to a little bit of a science now where I've been able to shorten this a bit, but the process is still the same, which is you want to gather a cross-functional team together, and even if you're a solo founder or you might have only like yourself and one other engineer, you can get a team of 6 to 8 together. You might ask any of your advisors to join you, or if you have investors on your cap table, you might ask them to join you. You might even ask a customer to co-create with you. So question here. Yes. We're gonna, yes. We're gonna, so take pictures, feel free to tweet using the hashtag @Omidyar Network. My Twitter ID is Poker Girl Ha, because I love poker, but we will certainly also share out the slides as well.
How do you spell the name of your company? OMIDYAR Network, or RK, okay. So anyways, so what we do is we want to get a cross-functional team together, and as I was saying, even if you don't have that team in place, you can still have that team assembled, right? So you can ask your advisors, your investors, even your customers to co-create with you, which I love. So when you've assembled your group of 6 to 8, what you want to do is you want to get everybody to share as much knowledge about the problem as possible. So you might have the business owner or yourself share what the business problem is, what the goals are, some of the challenges that we're facing, some of the market trends. You might have the customer expert, either the customer or somebody who's representing the customer, share all the insights that they gained from doing all of those customer discovery interviews. You might have the data expert sharing sort of the numbers, the conversion funnels and where the drop-offs are and why they believe that the drop-offs exist. But after we sort of gain a collective understanding of the problem, we come up with a challenge statement, and I'll sort of walk through this a little bit more in detail in further slides. But then we will start ideating, and we're going to try to come up with as many ideas as possible before we narrow it down and pick one. And so we're going to run it through for some of you who have paper and sticky notes. I'm going to run you through one of the ideation exercises. That's one of my favorites. But this process is going to allow you to ideate and come up with a ton of great ideas. But what's going to happen is you're going to pick one, and then you're going to prototype that idea, and then you're going to go back out to customers, and you're going to have them walk through the prototype. And what you want to learn is this idea any good? Is it really a solution to the problem that they described earlier? And if it's no good, right, you don't build it. If it's good, but there's issues with it, you iterate on the prototype, you don't build it quite yet. And if it's perfect, and it's rarely perfect, you can ship it off to engineering or hand it off to engineering. Okay, so I'm going to illustrate the sprint through one of my case studies. So I worked with Geeky. Geeky, for those of you who might not know, is a education tech startup in Brazil. And they have a product that's an adaptive learning platform for high school students who can study for the national exam. So one of the things to note is that in Brazil, the university school system is public, free, and amazing. But the problem is that you have to score in the top quartile of the national exam in order to get into the free, amazing public university. So what happens is that it advantages all the rich kids who can afford SAT prep or tutors, and it disadvantages the lower income population of Brazil. So you sort of see this over time where all the rich kids get into the free public university and all of the rest of the kids are left behind. So they built this adaptive learning platform several years ago, and they were like, great, I mean, it's going to democratize education, and everybody's going to use it, and we're going to sort of achieve our mission. And the reality is, just like the example of Airbnb, they launched the adaptive learning platform, and 3 or 4 years later, they were seeing very low engagement. Also, they had a premium product, and they wanted to get more customers over from free to paid, and nobody was really moving over. And then, in addition, they were challenged by the fact that they just onboarded a brand new PM to the team, and the PM didn't really know very much yet, and so he couldn't guide the team in terms of the product vision or the product roadmap. So it was really the perfect time to sprint. I flew to Brazil, to Sao Paulo, and worked with the team, and you can see some pictures from our sprint. So it's a very fun, interactive sort of co-creation exercise. In the morning, we do the knowledge sharing, as I mentioned, where we interview all of the different experts. The way we take notes is that we take notes through Post-its, where if we hear something that is interesting or a problem or a challenge, we might reframe it into an opportunity statement, right? So if we heard from Geeky that students weren't really using the learning platform because they weren't sure or trusted that it could give them the results that they wanted, they might write down the how might we statement of how might we gain students' trust. And then after the knowledge sharing morning, we gather all the Post-it notes, we organize them into key themes, we label them, and then we go and read sort of the themes. We might also in the afternoon do a customer journey map, right? So this is all around design thinking, so building empathy with our customers. And so often, especially if you're working on a marketplace business or a platform, there's not just one customer, there's multiple customers. So you want to outline all of the customers, and then you want to outline the main goal. So what is the main goal that you want our customers as they journey through your product to get to or to reach the promised land? And once you map it out, for the sprint, you want to sort of pick one key part of the map where you're going to focus the rest of the sprint. So for Geeky, they decided that they wanted to focus on lesson plans. So here is the challenge statement that we came up with. How might we help students engage with their study plans to best prepare them for the national exam? Now, when I work with teams, one of the things that I so often run into is that teams will come up with challenge statements that are focused on the business problem, not the customer's pain point. Right? So they'll be like, well, how can we increase engagement or increase conversion from free to paid? And the reality is, and this is what I tell all of my teams, which is, that's what you want, but unless you really figure out what the core pain is for the customer, can you ever empathize and develop the right solution that's going to help them with what their pain point is? And so we, after a while, come up with different versions of the challenge statement that has the focus on the user, which here is students, and their end goal, which is the national exam. Okay, so then we go through an ideation exercise, so we do lots and lots of sketching. So How many of you have ever watched a Pixar animated film? Hopefully everybody. There's some hands that aren't raised, so I'm a little bit worried about you guys. But anyways, so this is exactly the process that an animated film illustrator will go through, which is they don't just start drawing out the animation, right? So they will get together, sort of share ideas, brainstorm, they'll jot down things that they hear as notes, then they'll convert some of those notes into a mind map, and then they'll take that mind map and all of the ideas that they wrote down on paper, and they'll start sketching them. And then only after they sketch a bunch of things do they start stitching the sketches together. So that's exactly what we do in the sprint. And to sort of illustrate one of the sketching exercises, we're going to go through one today. So I'm not going to just talk at you. We're going to go through a group exercise. What we're going to do is each of you in front of you, and you should have a sheet of paper and a Sharpie. What you're going to do is take your sheet of paper, and Haley here in the front is going to distribute any sheets of paper if you don't have them in the back. And I think we ran out of Sharpies, but if you can pull out a pen. We're going to fold our sheet of paper into 8 squares. And so this is what it's going to look like. So you're going to take your sheet of paper, you're going to fold it once, you're going to fold it again, and you're going to fold it a 3rd time. And at the end of it, you're going to have 8 different squares. And then we're going to sketch a design challenge statement. Okay, so everybody have their sheets of paper and hopefully fold it. Okay, Ellie's going to go in the back. And okay, so here's the challenge statement. So I sort of came up with the challenge statement this morning, something that I think we can all ideate around. And here's our challenge statement. So we know, being early stage founders and working at startups, that we do not get outdoors as much as we need to. But we all know that the research says that getting outdoors improves our physical and mental health, and it actually makes us more creative as people. So the challenge statement today is how might we get more people to spend more time outdoors to improve their physical and mental health. And what I'm going to do is it's going to be a 3-step exercise. First step is I'm going to give you 5 minutes to sketch as many different ideas to answer this challenge statement as possible. So you're going to sketch one idea per square or rectangle, right? So, and again, I'm going to sort of show you that even if you don't think that you're great at sketching, it really does not have to be fancy. It's stick figures, boxes, arrows, anything to sort of get your idea not only down on paper as words, but sort of to start to visualize that idea. Any questions before I sort of start the 5-minute timer? Exercise is all clear to everybody?
Question.
Yeah, questions?
Front and back?
No. So it's just it's called Crazy Eights because we're going to sketch 8 ideas, and so we'll just use the front of the paper. So 1 idea per square. Other questions? In the back? Okay. Okay, yeah. So Haley's coming around with paper. Maybe Haley, somebody up here also needs paper at some point when you get a chance. Okay, I am going to start the timer right now. Okay, that's time. So what we're going to do now for step 2 is that each of you, it looks like we're kind of in groups of 4. So you're going to get together in your... Does that make sense? Since we start 10 minutes, I'm going to just go 10 minutes over, but I should be able to wrap up.
Let me see if I can get one. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, perfect, yeah.
So what are we supposed to do after we share? Do we pass it off?
The first 5 minutes was ideation, and the next 5 minutes was narrowing in on some of the best ideas. We got through a lot of ideas and we quickly narrowed it. So this is how I do group brainstorming now. I never do whiteboard, people shout out ideas, because then you feel compelled to critique each of those ideas as people shout it out. I always do the Crazy 8 exercise. It's a practice that I really highly encourage you guys to experiment with at your own startups, which is we want to ideate. Let's do individual silent ideation, but then we start going around seeing sort of where the heat is with the best ideas, and we only spend time talking about the ideas that have the most heat. We don't even bother talking about the rest. Okay, so I'm going to spend about 10 more minutes with you guys before I wrap up and hand over to the next presenter. So going back to the geeky example, so we did the Crazy 8 exercise, we came up with a bunch of ideas. We took one of those ideas and we storyboarded it out. So most of you, I think, have played the game Nintendo Mario Kart at some point in time. Okay, great. So we labeled our storyboard Mario's Journey, and just like Luigi and Mario, who are racing through the racetrack to get to the finish line, along the way they're gathering gold coins and super boosters, and then they see where they are in their journey and on the leaderboard. So we wanted to gamify the Geeky Adaptive Learning Platform to have to show students where they were in their learning journey, give them recognition and rewards every time they passed a learning module, and then show where they were on the leaderboard competing against some of their friends. Okay, so step 3, and probably the most important step, right, is that our ideas, we might now think that this is the best idea and let's go ahead and build it, but the reality is we have not validated whether the idea is any good. So what we want to do is we want to take it through a validation step, and so we turn our storyboard into a prototype. And so I think all of us, being early stage founders, know what prototypes are. They're clickable sort of interactions of the solution that we came up with. On day 5, we go out and we talk to 5 to 7 users. On day 5, I think past 7, you get diminishing returns. But you want to learn a few things when you talk to them. So one is you want to just verify that they even have this problem to begin with, right? So sometimes they might not even resonate with the solution because they don't have that problem to begin with. So you want to sort of make sure that they relate to the problem. Next, you want to make sure that they can actually use it. So this is the usability test. And one of the things that we do is we hand off, after learning about whether customers resonate with this problem, we hand off the prototype to them, and then we observe them while they go through the prototype. And we refrain from trying to help them out, because this will always happen. They'll get stuck and they'll look to you to tell them what to do next, and you're not going to do that. You're going to actually observe the struggle. And even when they get stuck 3 or 4 different times, you might ask them, well, if I wasn't here, what would you have done? And they probably would have said, oh, I probably would have just given up and exited it out, right? So you want to observe the struggle. And then you want to understand, the most important question is, would they use this product or the solution? And would they not just use it, because you don't want to just say, hey, do you like it? Would you use it? Because that might get you to some biased feedback. What you want to really understand is, would they use it over the existing solutions that are out there today, right? And so you want to understand, in the beginning, like, what are they using today to solve this pain or this problem? Would you use it over the existing solution? Why or why not? You might even ask them, like, would you be willing to pay for it? Would you be willing to share this with 5 of your friends and sort of see if they're willing to make trade-offs to use this product? And then what you want to also learn is, well, what would it take? And so I often bring back the NPS question, and I'll say, okay, on a scale of 0 to 10, how excited are you about the solution? Would you recommend it to a friend or colleague? And if they don't give you a 10, you want to ask them, well, what would it take to get a 10? What's missing from this? What would it take? Okay, so going back to the Geeky example, right? So Geeky went and tested their Mario solution with students, and during the first round of testing, it really surprised them because they thought that all the students were going to love it, and the reality was the students were like, some of it they liked, and then some of it was really confusing, or some of parts of the solution was just not valuable at all. So they went back and then they iterated on the prototype, and it wasn't until after the 4th round of testing, so they iterated on the prototype 4 times, 4th round of testing, they heard feedback from the students, oh my gosh, this looks amazing, when can I get my hands on this, I want it now, I know it's not ready yet, and so you want to hear that excitement in students' voices. If you're not, or in your customers' voices, if you don't hear that excitement, and they're like, yeah, it's pretty good, or oh, it's okay, like that's not what you want to get to. You want to get to the point where they have to have it, right? And so until you get to that point, keep iterating on the prototype. In some cases, the idea is just not any good, and you learn that quickly, and so you could just completely scrap the idea, and then maybe go back to some of your other Crazy 8 ideas, prototype that, and then test it with customers. For Geeky, they not only heard this, but they actually went a step further and A/B tested it, and found that the new study plan solution improved conversion by 50%. for me, during sprints with our teams, I just love their feedback of how now this is sort of how they do product discovery. They run sprints because it's just completely transformed the way they think about building products and their culture. Okay, so just in summary, so these are the 3 steps, right? So I think all of us intuitively know that this is what we should be doing, but hopefully I've given you sort of some ideas, a framework, a methodology to really sort of to get at it. So you want to sort of go talk to your customers, understand their world, understand everything about them, their pain points. Then you go back into the building and with your team, even if you're a solo founder, you can come up with a team to co-create with you. You want to ideate as much as possible before you pick the one solution that you then prototype and validate. And that solution may be great, and you can then hand it off to engineering. It could be okay, but it needs work, in which you iterate on the prototype, or it could actually be not very good, and that does happen, and then you're just going to scrap it, and you're going to go back to one of the other crazy 8 ideas. Okay, and then my final sort of thought that I'll share with you is that, you know, I really empathize with the journey that you guys are going through. I've been there, having worked at 5 early stage companies. I've been there. I've had successful products. I've had failed products. I really hope that you guys will take some of these ideas and frameworks and incorporate it into your daily life. I'm easy to reach via Twitter, LinkedIn, and then email, so I think that the organizing team is going to send out my contact information for you. But I really hope that that you're going to sort of take some of these ideas and create the most amazing product ever, and let me know if I can help you throughout your journey. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ha. This was amazing. A round of applause for Ha.
Can we get a picture? Photographer? Zeke? Can we get a picture of me in the audience? Because I'm rarely in a room full of women, so I really did, yeah. I gotta take advantage of this. So, okay, Joy, you need to go down?
Step back, just.
Step back. Yeah.
We're all about the pictures today.
All right, big smiles, everybody. 1, 2, and 3. All right, let's do one more. All right, big smiles, ready? 1, 2, and 3. Perfect.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you. So we're going to take a 15-minute break, and I want to introduce, so we're going to have a few short breaks and also a lunch break, but we wanted to make sure those breaks are super interactive and fun. So we have our break dancer who's going to be leading our kind of sessions and breaks. So Naisha is with our Launchpad, for our Launchpad team. Hi, Roy. And she's going to be our dance breaker, and we're going to introduce her. She's going to be around a lot, so we're going to talk to her. And yeah, we'll be here at 11:30.
Yep, perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Shiri. Hi, everyone. My name is Naisha Silva. I'm a project manager within People Operations here at Google, and I'm also a Startup Success Manager with the Google Launchpad. So we have 2 quick reminders for you all before we go on our break. Sorry. Oh, wrong slide. Okay, so the first one is we invited you all to go into a mentorship program. If you already registered for the mentorship program, you'll have to go to this link to actually register your information. And if you don't do so, you may actually lose your spot. So make sure to register your information using this link on your phone. The second quick reminder is we also have headshots available for you all. So they're going to be located to the left over here. And tomorrow as well during the breaks, okay? And last but not least, before we all kind of stand up, we'd like an opportunity for us to kind of maybe get to know one another a little bit. So turn to your neighbor and choose one of the 2 questions to ask your neighbor. The first one is, share one thing you've done that you think they haven't done yet. But if they've done it, you have to think of something new. And then you switch. Otherwise, you can share in one word how you would describe your jobs, whether you're a CEO at a startup, or your company and your company culture, as well as your life in general. So 3 words in total that you would use to summarize those 3 things. So choose one of the questions and turn to your neighbor to your left.
Are you going to participate?